Kyle, it looks like we're waiting for Jane and John. Is that correct?
I think you are correct. Yes. And now just Jane.
All right, Kyle, I'm going to go ahead with the meeting if you want to reach out to Jane to see if she's having some technical difficulties, but we'll oh, there she is. Good.
Couldn't get
Great.
it. I don't know why. Okay, thanks. Thanks for
Well,
waiting.
we're just glad you're here. Okay, I'd like to reconvene the Monday, March 22nd Dublin City Council meeting. Good evening and welcome. Given the current pandemic conditions, we are allowed by the state legislature to continue to conduct our public meetings virtually and maintain the safety of all of city councils, city staff, and certainly our residents as well. You can access the live stream of the city's website or on YouTube. In order to submit any questions or comments during the meeting, please use the form under the streaming video on the city's website. These questions and comments will be relayed to City Council by our communication and public information staff. We certainly want to accommodate public participation and comments to the greatest extent possible. And we welcome your comments on public business, but please refrain from making inappropriate comments. And we are very grateful for your patience. With that, I would like to ask Homer Rogers to please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great, thank you, Homer. Okay, we have a couple of special presentations and proclamations this evening. So today I had the good fortune to go to the Dublin Food Pantry and meet with our illustrious director Dinky and some wonderful volunteers over there today. And I believe that Dinky is here with us this evening. See if I can find her on my screen. Hopefully she can turn her camera on so we can all see her beautiful face.
We do have some attendees in the attendee room here. Is it possible that there could be a different name?
Well, goodness, I did not. Jenny, you sent out the invitations. Do you have an email address that you sent it?
That was the email address. I was just making sure that I didn't have someone else's name in there. So.
Her name is Denise officially.
Okay, there we go. Okay.
There she is.
Denise, you should be in the meeting now and able to control your microphone.
And can she control her video as well?
Yes, she should be able to.
Okay.
Denise, can you hear us?
I can, thank you.
You're welcome.
Great.
There
Well,
we are. And Jim is here with me, my colleague.
Hi.
Hello.
Seen you guys in a couple hours now. Anyhow, well, I just wanted to welcome you and thank you. I had the opportunity to deliver the proclamation this morning and see some of your amazing volunteers there. But I did want to take a moment to read the proclamation that you now have, just so that we can share it with the balance of the community. And it goes as follows. Whereas Dublin Food Pantry is celebrating its his 45th anniversary in 2021, and whereas located in Dublin Community Church, the pantry began on March 19, 1976, with area churches signing up to staff the food pantry beginning in the 1980s. And whereas Dublin Food Pantry is dedicated to providing for the needs of hungry people by collecting and distributing food and grocery products, educating the community about hunger's impact, collaborating with others to address basic human needs. Whereas the pantry serves parts of Franklin, Delaware, and Union counties within 8 zip codes in Dublin and the Dublin City School District. And whereas hundreds of volunteers have worked to assure the continued operation of the pantry with scouts, city government, schools, civic groups, faith communities, area businesses, postal workers, senior centers, and the other nonprofit organizations and neighborhoods continuing to be an integral part of the pantry's history. And whereas due to the coronavirus pandemic, it has been an especially challenging year for the Dublin Food Pantry, which has meant all items have been prepackaged and loaded into vehicles by volunteers in order to meet social distancing guidelines. And whereas in 2020, 79% more neighbors were served than in 2019. In 2020, 79% more neighbors were served than in 2019. 39% were children, 16% were seniors, and 124% more neighbors were served in the last 2 months of 2020 versus the same months in 2019. And whereas the staff, volunteers, and board continue to work hard every day, carrying on the Dublin Food Pantry's legacy and envisioning a community where everyone has sufficient nutritious food and the necessities for well-being. Now, therefore, I, Chris Ambrose, Grooms, Mayor of the City of Dublin, Ohio, on behalf of Dublin City Council, do hereby congratulate the Food Pantry on the occasion of its 45th anniversary and thank the board, staff, and volunteers for filling hearts and carts. Signed this 20 March 2021. So thank you, Dinky, and all of you.
I'd like to point out that the president of our board is on, Soli Hernandez. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Mayor Grooms.
Yeah, Dinky, and we had a conversation. Oh, hello, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you so much. We really appreciate this. We're so grateful for the support of the city. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you. I think we do the lighter lifting than y'all do, so we really appreciate you. Dinky, I know we had a conversation today about moving forward with what the Irish Festival might look like and how the pantry receives a lot of contributions over that time period. So we want to continue those conversations of how it is that we're going to involve the community in meeting some of the needs of the pantry in perhaps creative ways if the Irish Festival doesn't go off in the same fashion that it has previously.
That would be amazing.
Good. Well, I know we'll be in touch. We'll have a lot of work to do on how that might look. Do you have anything you'd like to have for us?
I just want to thank you so much. I've been doing emergency food for over 30 years, and I have never worked where a community is so supportive of everything that we do. And we really are grateful for that. So thank you very much.
We're
Well,
great.
Thanks.
I'll tell everyone what I told your volunteers today is that, anytime you look at a list of generosity, people of Dublin show up and it's highlighted because this community is a tremendously giving community. And I'm glad that we see it in the pantry and we see it in the other nonprofit organizations in the community so well. And, I know that this body really appreciates the way that you work with all of the other nonprofit entities, be it Centero, Dublin Bridges, Welcome Warehouse, and really it's overwhelming to see the amount of teamwork that you all are willing to participate in, really for the good of everyone everyone that calls this community home. So certainly do appreciate that.
Thanks so much.
Have a wonderful evening. I'm sure you'll want to stay around for this riveting council meeting, so feel free to stick around if you'd like to. Okay, Jim Wilson was there, the director of operations. Patty Wildershine is there for communications, and then we saw Ms. Hernandez, and thank you for sharing our thoughts as her thoughts with us as the chairman of the board. Okay, our second proclamation for this evening will deal with Earth Month. Both of these things very near and dear to my heart for sure, and I know all of council's. Okay, I think we're going to have Matt Ehrman join us now, so I will go ahead and read the proclamation, and I think Matt's going to join in with some comments following that. So whereas Earth Day is an annual event celebrated on April 22nd, which helps to raise awareness about environmental issues while promoting sustainable habits to protect resources in our community. And whereas a sound natural environment is the foundation of a healthy society and a robust economy. Whereas a sustainable environment can be achieved through educational efforts, public policy, and community advocacy. And whereas it is the city's desire to conserve resources and reduce greenhouse gas emissions, waste, litter, and pollution. And whereas the city encourages the reduction of litter by disposing of properly and voluntarily picking up litter throughout the community. And whereas the city aspires to protect the public health and welfare, including that of wildlife, vegetation, streams, and rivers, all of which enhance the quality of life for the community. And whereas coordinated efforts can help enhance environmental wellness and help to build. And whereas during the month of April, the city of Dublin will offer a variety of pandemic-friendly opportunities, such as a drive-through pickup for native plants and seedlings with its staff, video demonstration on how to conduct at-home stream quality measurement, children's contest, a video highlighting the city's pilot food composting program. Now, therefore, I, Christiane Rose Grooms, Mayor of the City of Dublin, Ohio, do proclaim the month of April 2021 is Earth Month and encourage the support of green initiatives throughout Dublin, Ohio for others to undertake similar actions. Signed this 22nd day of March. So, Matt, thanks for joining us. I think perhaps one of the things left out on that was our recycle and e-waste and hazardous waste opportunities to get those out of your household and dispose of properly too here in the coming weeks. So thanks for being with us, Matt.
You bet. Thank you. Good evening, members of council, and thank you, Mayor, for this proclamation. I think you said a lot there, Chris, and you're right. There are so many things that you can attribute to commemorating Earth Month. I'd just like to take a quick opportunity to highlight that, you mentioned that the staff has created a host of activities to commemorate Earth Month for residents to participate in throughout the month of April. We'll also be offering the educational video series that you mentioned, and certainly we'll top that off with Arbor Day at the end of the month. For more information, the city's website will highlight these activities and videos in the next week or so, so stay tuned for more detailed information. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate that. Okay. I'd like to move forward with citizen comments. This is an opportunity for citizens to comment on any topic that is not on this evening's agenda. And I will check in with Lindsay and Jenny to see if we have received any comments relative to items not on this evening's agenda. Jenny?
We have not.
Thank you. And Lindsay, good evening.
Good evening. We have not either.
Great, appreciate that. Okay, there are 3 items on our consent agenda. Is there a request to remove an item from the consent agenda? They are the meeting minutes of March 2nd, 8th, and 15th. Hearing none, I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda. Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you, Christina. Jenny, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Reiner,
Yes.
Mayor Ambrose Rooms,
Yes.
Mr. Keeler,
Yes.
Ms. Fox,
Yes.
Vice Mayor DeRosa,
Yes.
Ms. Ludo,
Yes.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Okay, this brings us to second reading public hearing ordinances. Ordinance 06-21 amended.
Amending the annual appropriations for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2021.
Very good, thank you. And I believe that Rosa is here again with us this evening. I saw her name. Oh, there she is right there. Welcome.
Good evening, members of City Council. Other than a small edit to the ordinance, there are no changes as first presented earlier this month. Staff recommends approval of this ordinance, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Wonderful, thank you. Lindsay, Jenny, have we received public comments via the clerk's office or the web?
We have not for the clerk's office.
And nothing through the web, Mayor.
Thank you. Council questions, discussion? Hearing none, Jenny, would you please call the roll?
Vice Mayor DeRosa,
Yes.
Ms. Fox,
Yes.
Mr. Reiner,
Yes.
Mr. Peterson, Mayor Ambrose Grooms,
Yes.
Mr. Keeler,
Yes.
Ms. Aludo.
Yes.
Great, thank you, Ms. Oaktree. Have a wonderful evening.
Thanks.
Ordinance 07-21.
Petitioning the Board of County Commissioners of Union County, Ohio to adjust the boundary lines of Jerome Township so as to exclude that territory that as a result of annexation now lies within the corporate boundaries of the city of Dublin.
Thank you. Staff report. Jennifer Raper, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, council members. There have been no changes to this legislation since first reading, and staff recommends approval of ordinance 7-21. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. Jenny, have we received any comments via the clerk's office?
We have not.
And Lindsay, have we via the web?
We have not.
Thank you. Council questions, discussion? Hearing none, Jenny, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Peterson,
Yes.
Ms. Aludo,
Yes.
Mayor Ambrose Grooms,
Yes.
Mr. Keeler,
Yes.
Vice Mayor DeRosa,
Yes.
Mr. Reiner,
Yes.
Ms. Fox.
Yes.
Great, thanks, Jennifer.
Thanks.
Ordinance 08-21.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a real estate transfer and development agreement with Ease Logistics Services LLC for the property located at 6101 Avery Road.
Thank you. And our staff report this evening will be Mr. Eric Meyer. Welcome.
Good evening, council. There are no changes to the ordinance that was read 2 weeks ago. I'm happy to answer any questions. After that, we also have Mr. Coratola from Ease Logistics to speak as well.
Great. Thanks, Eric. Lindsay, have we received any comments via the web?
We have not, Mayor.
Thank you, Jenny, through the clerk's office.
No, we have not.
Okay. Is there any council questions or discussion? Hearing none, I see Peter here. Peter, did you have something you would like to add?
Hello, council. Want to just give my appreciation for you guys taking the time to review this economic development agreement. Super happy to be in Dublin and growing Ease there. And Ease and Dublin have historically had great relationships from our first economic plan in 2017 to even currently right now. We've aligned with the city of Dublin and Goodyear Tires, its Smart Corridor or Smart 33 corridor, to do a smart sensor pilot that will be starting here in a couple of weeks. We've really been able to showcase how a strong community helps a company become innovative in the space, and it's because Dublin's been great to us. So this economic plan that's on the table now will further show our commitment to the city of Dublin for longevity, give us space to grow in the future, and give us some signage on Avery Road.
I tell you, you are about the greatest example of homegrown entrepreneurship and growing a business that we have in this city. So thanks for all that you do and all that Ease does. And we certainly are glad that you call this place home and that we get to call you friends. So thanks for all you do.
Likewise, thank you.
Jenny, could you please call the roll?
Mayor Ambrose Grooms,
Yes.
Mr. Keeler,
Yes.
Mr. Reiner,
Yes.
Ms. Aludo,
Yes.
Ms. Fox,
Yes.
Mr. Peterson,
Yes.
Vice Mayor DeRosa,
Yes.
Great. Well, thanks, Eric, and thanks, Peter, for attending tonight. Sure do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have ordinance 09-21.
determining to proceed with the acquisition, construction, and improvement of certain public improvements in the city of Dublin, Ohio, in cooperation with the Columbus Regional Energy Special Improvement District.
Okay, and Sarah, there's Sarah. Welcome, Sarah. We have our staff report this evening.
Good evening, members of council. There have been no updates since first reading for these ordinances before you this evening. I hope I was able to address some of your questions from the March 8th meeting in the updated project memo that accompanied your packet this evening regarding the schools in the township and some additional details on the OAQDA program as well. So if there are any additional questions, I'd be happy to answer those now.
Well, Sarah, I really appreciate the memo that was written, and certainly it will be something I think that we'll all want to keep a close eye on because, you know, this improvement may only be $1 million, but you know, it's certainly citywide could be something that might be impactful to all of the other entities that are funded through property tax. So I appreciate the answer to this question. I think that it's something that all seven of us will want to keep a close eye on in the future. I'm going to take a minute. Jenny, have we received any comments via the clerk's office?
No, we have not.
Thank you. And Lizzie, have we via the web?
No, we have not.
Okay, any other council questions or discussion? Hearing none, Jenny, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Fox?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor DeRosa?
Yes.
Ms. Aludo?
Yes.
Mr. Reiner?
Yes.
Mr. Keeler?
Yes.
And Mayor Ambrose Grooms.
Yes, I would thank you, Sarah, and wish you a good evening. However, you're going to be with us here for a while. Next is going to be ordinance 10-21.
Levying special assessments for the purpose of acquiring, constructing, and improving certain public improvements in the city of Dublin, Ohio, in cooperation with the Columbus Regional Energy Special Improvement District.
Great. And Sarah, I assume there is no additional information.
No additional information. Thank you.
Thank you. And Jenny and Lindsay, I'm just going to ask you collectively on this topic. Have we received any comments through the clerk's office?
No, we have not.
And via the web?
No, we have not.
Council questions, discussion? Jenny, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Keeler?
Yes.
Ms. Aludo?
Yes.
Mayor Ambrose Grooms?
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor DeRosa?
Yes.
Mr. Reiner?
Yes.
Ms. Fox?
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 11-21.
Authorizing and approving an energy project cooperative agreement by and between the City of Dublin, Ohio, the Columbus Regional Energy Special Improvement District, Inc., Stone Ridge Investment, LLC, and the Columbus Franklin County Finance Authority, a special assessment agreement by and between the City of Dublin, Ohio, the County Treasurer of Franklin County, Ohio, the Columbus Regional Energy Special Improvement District, Inc., Stone Ridge Investment, LLC, and the Columbus Franklin County Finance Authority, and related agreements, all of which provide for the financing of special energy improvement projects.
Great. And Sarah, nothing additional?
No additional from first reading.
Great. And Jenny and Lindsay, anything from your offices?
We have nothing.
Thank you. Council, any last opportunity for question, discussion? Hearing none, Jenny, please call the roll.
Mr. Reiner?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor DeRosa?
Yes.
Ms. Fox?
Yes.
Mayor Ambrose Grooms?
Yes.
Mr. Keeler?
Yes.
Ms. Aludo?
Yes.
Well, thank you, Sarah. I will now bid you a good evening.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Yes. Okay, introduction, first reading, public hearing ordinances. Ordinance 12-21.
Amendments to the code sections 153.002 and 153.150 through 153.162 regarding the temporary sign provisions of the City of Dublin zoning code.
I'll introduce it.
Thank you, Christina. Looks like we'll have Jenny Roush and Thad Vogt with our staff report, so welcome.
Great, good evening. Kyle, if you could give me sharing rights and then I can share my presentation, that would be great.
Okay, you should have those now.
Okay, great. Can everybody see my screen okay? Okay, thank you. So again, good evening. As introduced, this is an introduction for a proposed amendment to the temporary sign provisions of the zoning code. These regulations are proposed to align with the Reed v. Gilbert decision and guidance that happened a few years back. The ultimate decision as part of this case was to limit temporary signs to time, place, and manner, meaning the number, height, location, and time for temporary signs, and not to allow regulations to limit the content or the message. So in collaboration with the Law Director's Office, specifically Thad Boggs, who's here tonight too, in case there are any questions, as well as our consultant, Don Elliott with Clarion and Associates, we are bringing forward an amendment for you tonight to revise the temporary sign regulations of the zoning code. There are no changes at this time to the permanent sign code, just for everyone's awareness. So as shown on the slide here, we had discussions with the Community Development Committee back in November of 2019 with the direction to move forward with this draft amendment. And then subsequently, we provided a draft amendment and had review multiple times, as you can see, with Planning Commission, as well as the Architectural Review Board in the latter half of 2020, and then culminating in Planning Commission's recommendation February of this year. So a quick overview of the revisions. We have relocated and updated the sign definitions to locate those and consolidated those at the beginning of the code to be consistent with how we've organized other amendments. Additionally, we reorganized the sign section to outline temporary signs more specifically and give them their own designated section and clean up some of those provisions to make sure that they're all aligned. And that is differentiated from the permanent signs, which, as I mentioned, are unchanged at this time. The revisions to the temporary sign classifications really are made to align with the direction of the Reed v. Gilbert decision, really looking at making sure that those are not related to the content or messaging of a particular sign type. So those were made more general, as you will see throughout the draft that's in front of you. Additionally, we updated the general requirements under each of these specific classifications, and I'll review those at a high level here in a second, just so that you can understand what those mean. In a number of cases, lots of them are remained as were existing, but we have made some updates to that, including the inclusion of some material standards where that is appropriate. So in terms of specific amendments, I'm just going to highlight the sections and the classifications that had some more significant changes. So the first of those is banners, which largely retained the existing requirements within the code, but we also added a provision to allow the opportunity for a banner to be installed as a temporary sign, or excuse me, as a permanent sign. It's permitted and prior to construction to allow businesses to have a banner that would demonstrate what business is coming soon to that area, and not just associated with the grand opening as was previously permitted. We also removed the 3 color restrictions to allow businesses and non-residential to be able to use their logos, which sometimes are multiple colors. So we wanted to make that opportunity available. The second type is the construction fencing signs, which align with some recent discussions we've had with City Council about allowing that sign type, that temporary sign type on construction sites, just to allow for imagery of what's coming soon, which provides an opportunity to also screen the site and look at a graphic as opposed to just the fencing along that site. So that's included within the amendment, as well as then a development period sign, which was formerly the temporary development sign. And these are signs that are for residential, non-residential development that's under construction. So largely those retained the existing requirements related to location, size, and duration. But the permitted number is more restrictive. So this was heavily discussed at the Planning Commission with the recommendation of permitting 1 sign per parcel, except where 200 feet of frontage is available on 2 public rights-of-way. Previously, the code would have allowed 2 signs with only 100 feet of frontage on 2 public rights-of-way. So Planning Commission really wanted to limit and prohibit excessive signs in this nature. So that is what is recommended for that sign type. And then another sign type that was also heavily discussed by council and the CDC as well as Planning Commission is the non-residential sale or leasing period sign, which again is advertising non-residential space for sale or lease. And this was formerly called the commercial industrial for sale or lease sign. So the particular amendments related to that are reducing the permitted number of signs to 1 per parcel, where previously you could have multiple signs if you had frontage on 2 public rights of way in addition to the wall or window signs. So this updated version before you tonight only allows 1 per parcel, and it can either be a wall, a ground, or a window. Again, Planning Commission's desire was to minimize that visual clutter created by this particular sign type. So additionally, there were reduced size limitations added to this, reducing the size of the ground sign as well as the window signs. Additionally, this sign type has a reduced duration requirement to 30 days continuously and no more than 90 days in a calendar year, whereas the previous provision was solely tied to these signs being removed after 14 days of a property being sold or leased. So this provides much more stringent requirements for duration and doesn't allow these signs to be up for extended periods of time throughout the year. Then the next sign type is community activity sign and special events. These were formerly their own separate sections within the sign code, and we just consolidated those, reformatted them and clarified the language, but largely retained those existing standards for that. But we just wanted to clean that up and consolidate that within the temporary sign ordinance. And then the last one that I want to highlight is the category of other temporary signs, which includes a variety of previously permitted sign types, including political signs, which we've consolidated again to provide some more general classification to fit with the Reed v. Gilbert decision, but ultimately identifying permitted number and dimensions and duration for this sign type that didn't previously exist. And then as I highlighted here at the end of the screen, there's a number of signs: the construction trailer sign, garage yard period sign, gas inflatable sign, mobile home period sign, and residential sale or leasing, which were categories that were either renamed to align with the decision as well as retaining their existing standards and just very minor classifications. So overall, those sign types did not dramatically change from the existing code to what is proposed this evening. So as I mentioned, the Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed this in February and recommended approval to you of this request. And at this time, staff is recommending approval of this ordinance at the public hearing on April the 12th. And I am available to answer any questions, and that is here as well.
Great, thanks, Jenny. I want to check in with the clerk's office. Have we received any comments via the clerk's office?
We have not.
Great, thank you. And Lindsay, have we received any via the web?
We have received one. And this one comes from Brian Griffith, who writes, I am writing in support of Ordinance 12-21 to improve the temporary signage regulations in Dublin. I would encourage the city to further clarify and highlight that real estate for sale and open house signs are temporary signs which may not be placed in the right-of-way. Every weekend across the city, real estate agents place open house and for sale signs on street corners around pointing homes deeper within a neighborhood. They do not ask permission of the City of Dublin or the landowner. Pursuant to Section 153.154A and G, these signs are prohibited. Furthermore, the procedure for reporting, removing, and disposing of improper temporary signs should be clearly communicated to landowners who are frequently targeted by illegal temporary signs. This would expedite cleaning up in our communities and reduce the amount of work asked of our city staff. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Lindsay.
You're welcome.
Okay, council discussion, questions?
Jenny, I have a question. Thank you for your presentation. The non-residential sign or leasing period sign. So I'm thinking about a commercial building that is for sale or lease. What is the duration requirement?
So as proposed, the sign can be permitted for 30 days continuously and no more than 90 total days in a calendar year.
Okay, so I'm just thinking if I am trying to sell a building and it doesn't sell within 90 days, what do I do?
Yes, that is a challenge. So the goal of this proposed portion of the amendment was to provide some parameters around what that duration might look like, in that we have existing signs that fall within this category that would be able, there's not a duration limited to that. So it's really to not let these be in perpetuity.
So some of the larger signs that I see that are more or less installed with 4x4 posts and plywood, those don't have a 90 day limit. You're talking about almost like a standard residential for sale sign or a political sign, 2x3 size. Those have a 90-day limit.
Actually, it would be the first group that you were talking of, that this is proposing to limit the size of the duration of those particular signs.
The ones mounted on the 4x4 post.
Right.
Okay, I'm just thinking, it seems to me that there are a lot of commercial buildings around the city that for one reason or another, they're not leasing or selling within that period of time. Maybe I'm missing something.
No, again, I understand where you're coming from. The challenge, though, is that without any duration to this, then they can be up there for years at a time and contribute to the visual clutter along several corridors. So again, Planning Commission's recommendation was, and we had a lot of discussion about how to limit this in a way that allows people to have this sign type, but also not in perpetuity. That is a challenge.
Okay, thank you.
So do they, if they take, in Andy's scenario, if they take them down for a period of time, can they then put them back up again for another 90 days? Or is it after that calendar year? Is it calendar year from the time they first put up the sign, or the calendar year from the time they took the sign down?
It would be 90 days total in the calendar year from the time the sign went up. And it would be, yeah.
Right, but if they took it down, but they still didn't sell the building and they wanted to put it back up again, when does that year lapse? Does it lapse from the time they put the sign up or from the time they took it down?
It would be in the time they put it up, because it's meant to capture those potential like 330-day windows throughout the year.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, Jane.
You're asking many of the questions that came through all of these commissions, especially in planning and zoning. And I think the idea here was that, like most places that lease, it's usually done through the internet. I mean, they're usually done through commercial leasing sites and that sort of thing. We were trying to find ways, or at least the commissions were trying to find ways, to allow some signage on occasion when you might have an office that was leasable, but certainly not. But as you all know, as you go through Dublin, and Franz Road's a prime example, they've been up for years. You wouldn't know, whether they had leasing available or not. It was simply a large advertisement. It was like a poster board, right? So commissions looked at this to make sure that the rights of the commercial property owner could show that they had a new lease available, but also to make the signs more appropriately designed. And I think the request, Jenny, correct me if I'm wrong, that they should be done by a professional sign maker, that they are reduced inside considerably. They're only 4 foot tall. They're only 16 square foot wide, which now they're much, much larger. And that you don't have both the window sign, the wall sign, and the freestanding sign. So they're still able to lease, but the internet is more appropriate probably for what's current in the marketplace. It does reduce the visual clutter.
So what does enforcement look like?
you would apply for a certificate of zoning plan approval when you want to install this sign, and then that would indicate the date that this would expire. And then with our new system, automated system, we would get notification that this has since expired, and then either you can renew for, up to your 90 days, but then after that, then you would not be permitted to have that sign.
So do we have an inventory of all the ones that we have up there today? Like we do. So is it your intent that code enforcement would then sort of systematically throughout the, once this happens, go through and start communicating with folks?
Yes, because there would be, they would do this permit on a yearly basis, and we would keep track of that. So when that comes time, yes, we would make sure to notify them of this changed requirement.
I mean, even including the signs that are currently up today.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Greg.
Hey, Jenny, I 100% support this effort. There's nothing temporary about these signs. They would weather any hurricane that came through Dublin when we have that. And they're there forever. I have an office in Metro Place. Every single building has had one of these signs in front of it for the last 2.5 years that I've been over. The building I drive into every day has had the same sign in front of it for 2.5 years. What happens though, Jenny, when they are claiming, so is it one side per building? Because if they can reconfigure the floors, they can reconfigure the office space. There's virtually always some kind of a vacancy in that building. And if they say, and I imagine this is what they used to say in the past, is they would say, well, that office that we put the sign up when that office became available and it's now leased. However, there's this office over here that's still available. And then when that one leases, well, there's this one over here. And so you're just perpetually leapfrogging over your time requirements. And because it would be, and Christina has an excellent point about enforcement, practically just virtually impossible for us to police that, to know which buildings had vacancies at which times and who was sort of taking advantage of this leapfrogging of time limitations. Is it, if you have an office building that has, however many 3 floors and however many thousands of square feet of office space, and there's part of it is vacant, and you put up the sign, and 90 days go by, and you have to take it down, and then 3 months later, a different office space becomes vacant. Are you prohibited from putting up another sign?
Yes, you would, because it's one sign per parcel. So no matter whether it's this tenant space this month or this tenant space another month, it's meant to encapsulate the entire parcel, one sign. So it sort of takes that out of the equation, us trying to sort out and understand, which tenant space are vacant now versus in future instances.
I get that, and I understand that. I appreciate that. Thank you. I understand that this is a method of marketing that would then not be available other than for 90 days out of the year. And I am very supportive of our commercial community and the real estate community and their efforts to fill these offices. I mean, we've said it a million times, that's what drives our economic engine. However, if you drive through there, no matter how much effort is put into the appearance code and everything else, you drive through Metro Place. If you just came down or you came in from another community and you drove through Metro Place, you would think that there was a massive flight out of Metro Place because of the sign after sign after sign after sign after sign of vacancies. And it really does, I'm a free market guy, but the visual clutter is extremely noticeable. And so I greatly appreciate all the effort and the balancing that we have to do in this environment and with this topic. I do think it will be a dramatic improvement to the visual clutter. So I really appreciate all the effort that you put into tracking this down.
Thank you.
There was a lot of discussion of that point exactly at the Planning and Zoning Commission, and there was a sense that not only would this reduce the visual clutter, but with the internet and online type of options available, that there were plenty of alternative ways for people to get those news about vacancies or whatever they want to put on one of those signs out.
Yeah, Kathy.
Thank you. I'm supportive of it as well. And I do think that one thing that will happen if the signs come down, when a sign goes up, you'll actually notice it. Right now, you wouldn't notice it anyway. So there is that variety part of it that can actually occur now, where in today's environment, I don't know how you would tell. I had a changing topics on that. So from the commercial signs, I agree. The special event signs, there was discussion to remove the color requirement for banners, but not for other things. So why was that? I'm curious about the thinking about it's still 3 colors on pretty much everything else that I could see except for banners. What was the commission's thinking there? Or did I read that wrong?
I'm looking here while you were talking. I don't know. I think in the end, the banners was, again, just because we were talking about that specific sign type. I think if there are other instances, and I guess I'd like to go back and look at this in more detail prior to coming back to you all. But
yeah, I looked at a few of them, and it said that the 3 colors were still required. So there may be more variations, but you know, one of the things I would encourage is white and black are considered and counted, and the background color is counted. So basically, if you have a white sign with black letters, you can have one other color on that sign. And because these are temporary signs, I don't know that still holds water when logos can be multicolor. So maybe we allow the logo to be on there. I know in some instances, I'm just sort of looking for consistency on there. I think allowing an organization to put their logo up, and I would think this too on the permanent sign. I feel that way. I know we're not discussing permanent signs here, but an organization or a company should be allowed to put their logo up. I mean, Google could not put their logo up in Dublin because of the multicolor requirement. And so I think that that's something to be considered. So I was just wondering, do we have consistency with banners and non-things? I mean, I'm not an advocate for 32 colors here. I'm not saying that at all, but we seem to have maybe created an inconsistency. I don't know.
Yeah, actually, as you were further elaborating, I think we removed that color restriction so that it aligned with the general requirements of the temporary and permanent signs, which would allow for the use of a logo and that secondary imagery. So I think we're covered. I think now that my brain is caught up, it seems like we were eliminating that.
Yeah, but I still saw some in there, unless I read them wrong. There was a color limit. So anyway.
Okay, well, we can go back and look at that for the second reading, and if we need to amend that to be clear, we can definitely do that.
And I think there could be some flexibility there. You know, does a white background count as a color? I don't know. We're looking for creativity here on some of these things, and I'm not sure that we don't have it too tight there. I would some flexibility. And then my other question or comment would be about the notification for the commercial properties, and I guess Christina's point about I would call it enforcement, but more about the notification of this change. And was there conversation about how long folks would have to change this? So does upon the passing, does 90 days begin to tick, or how does that work? Do they have 90 days to get it down, or 30 days, or what's the thinking there?
I mean, they're currently permitted on a yearly basis, so we could work with Thad to determine whether that, and maybe he wants to speak to that, how we're going to go forth and enforce that.
Yeah, the way that I would see it is we would have 30 days from, if this were to pass, there'd be 30 days until it was effective. And in the meantime, essentially, as people are having to re-up their permits, because we can't cut short an existing permit, but as they re-up, then they would be exposed for the first time to that 90 total days in the calendar year. And also, just to follow up on Council Member DeRosa's comments about creativity, one thing that we have not addressed, but which I I think many applicants find helpful is the master sign plan process that they go through, or that they can go through, which allows for more individualized review from the commission and is geared to encouraging that kind of creativity rather than these sort of straight zoning sign type of regulations.
But that they wouldn't necessarily do that with a temporary sign, right? We're not going to go through a master sign process with a temporary sign. So
That's exactly right. That would only be for for permanent sign.
yeah, anyway, I think there some creative. So to go back to your other point then, Thad, so this really couldn't go into effect until 2022 because they have a current application, is that right?
If somebody has a current permit, and I guess I would have to rely on Jenny to tell me if they are done on a rolling basis or if they're all expired and then reissued in January of the year. But if somebody has a current permit, we can't cut it short with new legislation. So there should be, for anybody that has an existing permit, there's going to be plenty of time for them to understand what the requirements will be next time.
And that's the same for the size and color changes as well, right? If they've got a current permit, that just stays until that permit needs to be renewed, and then they're subject to all the new rules. Got it.
Yeah, I'd like to say that the Community Development Committee hashed this thing through pretty extensively, and so we have 3 council people already who are in support of this.
Jenny, I would just add, do they need to prove that they have vacancy to obtain a permit?
I don't think we went to that level. And again, given that they only get this really short amount of time, I guess our expectation would be they would use that judiciously. That if they only get that, they wouldn't want to waste it if they weren't really truly needing to advertise.
Well, I would think that we would want to verify that they actually had a vacancy prior to issuing the permit, or have them display, maybe a listing or whatever of that, because we could, the law of unintended consequences, see these go up for 90 days on every piece of property in the city as an advertisement of whatever it is that they wanted to advertise. If it were because we can't regulate the content on this sign. We could see specials for, I don't know, dental work or something show up on these. And then we would get to see those signs for 90 days every year. So I would like to see us add some language that they must prove that they have a vacancy. I know down on Bridge and High, there's real estate signs affixed to the building that has no vacancies, and it has been there forever. So we probably would only then just see that for 90 days rather than ever, unless they needed to prove that there was in fact a vacancy that they were advertising. I would suggest that we draft a letter to all of these folks that we would send out upon passage, even prior to it becoming effective, just so that we could notify them as early in the process as we can, so that those that maybe are I think there's probably a lot of them up right now that don't have any approvals at present, right? That they've just been there. So I think we probably would want to get that letter drafted and send out upon passage, so that those that don't have the proper authority to be there would come down in the near term. And these do cover ones that are directly affixed to buildings, even if they may be 3 feet by 2 feet, or whatever those other sizes are as well.
Correct.
Anything else from council? I think everyone had gone. Okay. Thad, Jenny, thank you so much. We will look forward to second reading public hearing on this on April 12th.
Great, thank you so much.
Okay, ordinance 13-21.
Amending various sections of ordinance 1517 for certain personnel restructuring and adjusting the operating budget accordingly.
I'll introduce it.
Thanks, Christina. And there she is, Ms. Maglietti, to give us our staff report. Welcome.
Good evening, members of the council, and happy spring. Before you is recommended amendments to various sections of Ordinance 15-17. The city is recommending that the clerk of council be added to the non-union compensation plan with a modification to the title from the office of the clerk of council to the Division of Legislative Services. Additionally, as part of the reorganization in 2020, the creation of a management analyst program was intended to be a launching pad for a career in municipal government with the vision toward developing future city managers. There are currently 2 management analyst positions approved in the operating budget for 2021, and a 3rd position is needed to support this vision. In doing this, there is no longer a need for the government and international relations manager under the Office of the City Manager. The proposed is needed to authorize the changes made as part of this addition to the ordinance so that they can be incorporated into the city's administrative and payroll systems. Subject to any questions council may have, staff recommends approval of this amendment.
Great, thank you. I want to check in with Lindsay. Have we received any comments via the web?
Nothing on this matter.
Thank you, and Jenny, through the clerk's office.
Not.
Council questions, discussion. See a lot of head shaking, so I'm going to take that as a no. Okay, we will have second reading public hearing on this as well at our April 12th meeting. So thanks, Jennifer.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Okay, introduction public hearing resolution 1621.
Accepting the final plat for the overlook at Tartan subdivision.
I'll introduce it.
Thank you. And Chase Ridge is going to be deliver our staff report.
Yeah, good evening. Kyle, do you mind giving me the right to share?
Yes, just switched it to you.
Okay,
Should be
thank
there
you.
now.
And Chase, if you'd care to turn your camera on, we appreciate it.
All right. Can you see this okay?
Sure can.
Great. So as was introduced, this is a resolution number 16-21 for the acceptance of the final plat for the overlook at Tartan subdivision. The site is highlighted in yellow on your screen. It is approximately 24 acres in size and is located northeast of the corner or the intersection of Highland Croy Road and McKittrick Road. The site has approximately 1,350 feet of frontage on Highland Croy and 950 feet of frontage on McKittrick. The site sits just west of the Tartan Ridge neighborhood. The final plat facilitates the development of 56 single-family lots, 4 open space reserves, and 5 public streets. And is consistent with the approved development text and preliminary plat approved by council in February of 2020. There are 2 different lot sizes proposed. Generally, patio lots are a minimum of 52 feet in width and 125 feet in length. Courtyard lots are a minimum of 60 feet in width and 125 feet in length as well. This was reviewed against applicable criteria. Staff recommended approval to the Planning and Zoning Commission of the final plat with 1 condition, that being that the applicant make any minor technical modifications to the plat prior to submission for acceptance to City Council. The applicant has satisfied that condition, and Planning and Zoning Commission voted to make a recommendation of acceptance to City Council. I'm happy to answer any questions you all may have, and we also have the applicant in attendance tonight. Thank you.
Great, thanks for Chase. Lindsay, have we received any public comment via the web?
We have not, Mayor.
Thank you. And Jenny, have we received any through the clerk's office?
We have not.
Okay, council questions, discussion.
Yeah, I'm curious about the lot sizes. Are they in keeping with the rest of the Tartan project over there?
They do vary in size from 6,500 square feet to approximately 12,500 square feet in size. So there is a bit of variation. Generally speaking, they're a bit smaller than the lots in Tartan Ridge.
Are we expecting a different type of housing then on those lots than the previous Tartan Ridge subdivisions?
Yeah, so this particular subdivision will be for primarily targeted toward empty nester homes, patio lots, small kind of maintenance-free sites.
Is it anticipated that there'll be a master maintenance program on this?
Yeah, so the owners of these 56 lots will be required to join the Tartan Ridge Master Association. However, with this, there is the requirement to join a sub-association for specifically for the Overlook at Tartan. Sub-association will take care of hedgerows and kind of more of the almost condo type of maintenance items like mowing and snow removal, so on and so forth.
And that's a portion of the deed restriction?
It is.
Was the existing Tartan Homeowners Association involved in this, in the review of this project? I guess what I'm asking, were they active in this particular review?
They were. The applicant did involve the existing HOA for Tartan Ridge. They may be able to speak better on the specific level of involvement, but they were involved throughout this process.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments from council?
No, well, I will, Chris. I sat on the Planning and Zoning Commission when this came through, and to Councilman Reiner's question, the residential areas around were very involved in this and were supportive. And even though that this is probably where some of the density and lot sizes conversation began. One of the things that Planning and Zoning requested of this particular applicant is that if lot sizes were smaller, then the activity of the green space or the activation of those green spaces should be enhanced and very usable. So that was where, and I'd be curious to see your thoughts on that, but that and connectivity were quite important to the Planning and Zoning Commission in trying to make sure that the neighborhood as a unit functioned as an active and social space. So if that helps answer that question.
Thank you, Jane. Appreciate it.
And Jane, I'm sure that there was conversation about outdoor spaces and the planning and programming of such for the individual residential units.
There was quite a bit. Although I'm not so sure that the patios, as we have come forward later on in these conversations, I'd have to go back and look to see if patios were addressed, as we've talked about in some of our other developments.
Okay, anything else from council? Hearing none, Jenny, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Ambrose Grooms,
Yes.
Ms. Fox,
Yes. Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Ms. Aludo,
Yes.
Mr. Keeler,
Yes.
Vice Mayor DeRosa,
Yes.
Mr. Reiner.
Yes.
Okay, resolution 17-21.
Appointing members to the various boards and commissions of the City of Dublin and the Board of Trustees of the Bridge Park New Community Authority.
I'll introduce it.
Thank you. And Vice Mayor DeRosa will have our staff report.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to begin by saying thank you to all of the applicants who applied for the openings. We all get an opportunity to meet and interview and talk with all the applicants and such an amazing group of people. And I want to say thank you very much. So after much discussion and deliberation, this resolution brought forward to you this evening will make several appointments, and I'll provide that for you now. Kim Way is hereby appointed to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and Mark Sublak is hereby reappointed to the Planning and Zoning Commission, both terms expiring March 31st, 2025. Gary Alexander and Sean Carter are hereby reappointed to 3-year terms on the Architectural Review Board, both of those terms ending in March 2024. Robin Clore is hereby appointed to a 3-year term on the Board of Zoning Appeals, and Jason Dressler is hereby reappointed to a 3-year term on the Board of Zoning Appeals, both terms expiring March 2024. Steve Dritz and Elizabeth McLean are hereby reappointed to 3-year terms on the Community Services Advisory Commission, those terms ending in March 2024. Sharon McGee is hereby appointed to a 3-year term as city representative to the Visit Dublin, Ohio Board. That term expires in March 2024. Anthony Trippi is hereby appointed to a 3-year term as city representative to the CODA Advisory Panel, and that term ends March 2024. Jim Renard is hereby appointed to a 3-year term on the Personnel Board of Review, term ending March 2024. Sherry Tackett is hereby reappointed to a 2-year term as citizen representative to the Board of Trustees of the Bridge Park New Community Authority, and AC Strip is hereby reappointed to a 2-year term as local government representative to the Board of Trustees of the Bridge Park New Community Authority, such terms expiring on March 31st, 2023. So with that, I would like to congratulate all the appointees and thank them very much for their service.
Great, thank you. I do want to take a moment and ask for public comment. Jenny, have we received any via the clerk's office?
We have not.
Thank you. And Lindsay, have we via the web?
We have not either, Mayor.
Appreciate that. Any further questions, discussion by council? Other than to congratulate those individuals and their service. Jenny, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Keeler,
Yes.
Ms. Aludo,
Yes.
Vice Mayor DeRosa,
Yes.
Mayor Ambrose Grooms,
Yes.
Mr. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Reiner,
Yes.
Ms. Fox.
Yes.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I know that is a tremendous amount of work, and we so appreciate all of your efforts on our behalf. Okay, resolution 18-21.
Accepting the lowest and best bid for the Muirfield Drive at Portage Road Bridge Replacement Project.
I'll introduce it.
Thank you. Mr. Hammersmith magically appeared on my screen to deliver the staff report.
Hey, good evening, members of council. On March 2nd of this year, 8 bids were received, open and read, for the Muirfield Drive at Brand Road Bridge Replacement Project. Work included in this project consists of the replacement of the existing twin bridge structures on Muirfield Drive over the North Fork Indian Run, located north of Brand Road, with new twin bridge structures similar in appearance and size to the 2 existing bridges. All work is located within existing right-of-way. Muirfield Drive will remain open to traffic for the duration of the construction. During the construction phases, 1-lane, 2-way traffic will be maintained on one bridge with temporary crossovers. One bridge will be removed and replaced, followed by the removal and replacement of the second bridge. The engineer's estimate for this project is $1,300,000. The budgeted funds in the 2020-2025 CIP for this bridge replacement project are $1,275,000 in annual vehicular bridge maintenance. Complete general construction submitted the lowest and best bid of $1,291,231.20. Construction of this project is to commence in mid-June after the conclusion of the Memorial Tournament. The completion date for this project is November 20th of this year. The typical communication methods will be used to convey construction information with the residents and motorists throughout the duration of this project. Staff will communicate directly with the Memorial Tournament staff and the Muirfield Association prior to any construction activities, so the upcoming project is clearly understood. Staff has thoroughly reviewed the complete general construction company bid. Previous experience with Complete General Construction Company has been favorable on numerous past projects, and staff is confident they will perform well on this project. Staff recommends council approval of Resolution 18-21, accepting as lowest and best the bid of Complete General Construction Company in the amount of $1,291,231.20, and authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Complete General Construction Company for this project. I'll be glad to answer any questions council might have about this resolution.
Great, thank you, Paul. I want to check in with the clerk's office to see if we've received any public comment relative to this legislation.
We have not.
Thank you. And Lindsay, via the web?
We have not.
I appreciate that. Council questions, discussion?
I'm just curious, just want to ask Paul quickly, how old is that bridge or those bridges?
I don't know the exact age. They were built with one of the initial phases of Muirfield. So in the 70s sometime, but I don't have the date of construction.
Okay, so, and you know, these new bridges, how long do you think? Is a 50-year time span? What is average for something like that?
Probably a 50 to a 60-year time span. These are concrete box beam bridges that are post-tensioned. So what has happened is it's really been the deterioration of the concrete itself that's caused their decline and the need for us to replace them.
Okay, and then you replace them with the same sort of concrete foundation as this is, or is there newer technology that would make them last longer? Just curious.
I would say the concrete today is probably a little bit better than it was, 50 years ago. They are going to be post-tension bridges again. We're going to reuse the existing abutments, so it's really the superstructure itself that's being replaced along with the guardrail.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Take that.
Other questions, comments? It was probably within about 75, I'd guess, Paul.
I would say that's pretty accurate.
Not that I'm old enough to remember that, but I did.
So it's your initials that are in the side of them. Okay.
Okay, correct, yeah. Okay, thanks, Paul. Certainly appreciate that. If there's nothing further, Jenny, would you call the roll?
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Keeler?
Yes.
Ms. Fox?
Yes.
Mayor Ambrose Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Aludo?
Yes.
Mr. Reiner?
Yes.
Vice Mayor DeRosa?
Yes.
Thank you, council.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it. Resolution 19-21.
Accepting a final plat for the Primrose School Development in the Bridge Street District.
I'll introduce it.
Thank you, Christina. And we'll have Zach Helmshell. We have made all the rounds with staff tonight, so I guess you're batting cleanup tonight, Zach. So please take it away.
Thank you. I will do my best here as a cleanup batter. Well, good evening. Before you this evening is Resolution 19-21 for the final plat for the Primrose School. The site highlighted in yellow is approximately 3.58 acres in size and sits just south of West Dublin Granville Road. The site is located within the office zoning district of the Bridge Street District and is currently vacant. Shown on the screen is the Bridge Street District street network map with the site highlighted in yellow on the screen. The site is adjacent to West Dublin Granville Road to the north, which is designated as a corridor connector in a principal frontage street. There's also a designated potential neighborhood street just to the east of this site. The applicant is proposing to develop a neighborhood street to complete this section of the street network map in conjunction with the development of the site. Before you is the proposed final plat for this site. This plat was approved as a preliminary plat back in January of this year. The site remains the same in terms of layout for sites and right-of-way. The applicant is proposing 2 new lots to be developed in the future, along with right-of-way dedication for Abbey Lane, which is along the east portion of the site. Lot 1 is the southern of the 2 lots and is 1.370 acres in size and has frontage on Abbey Lane to the east. This site will be developed with this application. Lot 2 is the northern of the 2 lots and is 1.632 acres in size. It does have frontage to West Dublin Granville Road to the north and Abbey Lane to the east, and will be saved for future development. Abbey Lane was the selected name for this public neighborhood street. It has been vetted through emergency services, and they have approved of the selected name. The applicant also has memorialized 2 existing easements on the site, including a 100-foot electrical easement along the west property line and a 50-foot reciprocal easement along the south property line. The applicant also provides a cross-access easement along the shared property line of lots 1 and 2 for an access drive in the future, as well as additional electric and lighting easements to the north of the ingress-egress easement and west of the Abbey Lane right-of-way. Staff did review this application to all applicable final plat criteria and recommended approval to the Planning and Zoning Commission in February for the final plat with 3 conditions. Planning and Zoning Commission did come to a determination of recommending acceptance to City Council. If any of council members have questions for staff, I would be happy to answer them at this time. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Zach. Appreciate that. Lindsay, you want to check in with you on public comment via the web?
We have nothing at this time. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And Jenny, through the clerk's office?
We have nothing. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Council questions, discussion? And I certainly appreciate all that the Planning Commission and staff has done. I know this was a very difficult site to develop, given the utility easements and everything else going on here. So appreciate all the hard work and plowing through that. Jenny, would you please call the roll?
Saludo.
Yes.
Mr. Reiner.
Yes.
Vice Mayor DeRosa.
Yes.
Ms. Fox.
Yes.
Mr. Keeler.
Yes.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Mayor Ambrose Grooms.
Yes. Okay, under the other portion of our agenda, Jenny Roush will be joining us again about an update on our decaf.
Good evening again. You spoke too soon. You thought you were done with planning for tonight, but not so lucky on your part. Kyle, again, if you get a chance so I could share my slides, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay.
So as mentioned, this is an update to the Dublin Corporate Area Plan. We just want to provide an update to our progress and discuss some recommendations on how to proceed from here on out. As outlined in your memo, but also wanted to highlight here, just reviewing, the Dublin Corporate Area Plan and the goals of that, which obviously were targeted to provide some reinvestment opportunities for our legacy office areas, as well as provide opportunities for redevelopment and infill opportunities, looking for that mixed-use walkable environment to include dining and service amenities that don't currently exist within these areas. But also being aware of and addressing compatibility with surrounding uses, particularly residential properties that abut this area, and how to sensitively address those. Additionally, the plan recommendations look for and strive for consistent architectural and site standards throughout this entire DCAP area. And so that area plan was adopted by council in September of 2018. And following that approval and adoption, staff met with the CDC in March of 2019 to get further input and discussion about how to phase these, the implementation of that, which includes the development of zoning code regulations and design guidelines, as well as an area plan, or excuse me, area rezoning associated with that to help implement that as part of the implementation of this overall plan. So the outcome of that meeting included recommendations for phasing, and the first phase that was identified was looking at the MUR4, which stands for the Mixed Use Regional District. And on the map here that's before you, it is the portion that is in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. So that is east of France and south of Rings. That was to be the first phase of development, and that was really looking at, given the momentum and engagement of all the stakeholders in that area, trying to move that phase forward first. And following the adoption or acceptance of the code and area rezoning for that, then phase 2 was to be following closely behind that. So phase 2 then is the Metro Blazer area, and that is the MUR number 1 district. So that is located on the west side of France Road, south in that Metro Blazer area there, north of Blazer Parkway. And then as you'll see in the graphic, there are other future phases that require additional research and would be part of subsequent future phases. But the first 2 phases were really identified as part of that. So with that, staff then moved forward with the development of code and guidelines for this MUR4 district. So this area that is south of Rings and east of France, which is shown here on the right-hand side of your screen. So again, we've developed draft code and guidelines, which the goal obviously is to implement the recommendations of the area plan, and trying to balance, the viability for commercial property owners to be able to develop their properties, as well as I mentioned, addressing residents' concerns, especially those that abut the commercial properties, and how to do that in a sensitive way, while also trying to ensure that we're upholding the recommendations from the area plan. So we have reviewed the code and the guidelines in multiple sessions with the commercial property owners and the residential property owners in several different formats to get their input up front, but then also in our latter phases of this first phase. As outlined, we, as part of these discussions, there have come to light some challenges with how to handle the properties that are abutting residential and how the code and guidelines can address those, again, with the idea of balancing commercial property development with residential protections, if you will. And particularly the NRI parcel, which is the Nationwide Realty parcel, that is the only vacant parcel within this particular phase, which is abutting the Llewellyn Farms development. That's located in that more upper portion of this particular phase. And we've done significant outreach to both of these groups, the commercial property owner and the residents, to try to understand and outline, and we've outlined in your memo that we've addressed a number of the topics that both parties and particularly the residents have raised to us as part of our work. However, we have some still outstanding concerns that are raised by the neighbors, and we included that information in your packet just for reference so you can understand the work that we've done so far and what their outstanding concerns are, which really boil down to 3 particular topics, which is building height, setbacks, and screening, and how those would be addressed within the code, and the neighbors expressing concerns about how those are addressed. Additionally, then working with NRI to understand that this is obviously, as I mentioned before, the only undeveloped parcel within this area, and their concerns with the draft regulations and the guidelines and how that's there's limitations that are being placed on their property that don't currently exist, and how to remedy that. And they have subsequently sent a request to be removed from this MUR4 district phase, which we've also included within your packet for your reference. And as I mentioned, staff and the consultant team have made efforts to resolve these outstanding issues and have ultimately come to an impasse. So we wanted to bring that forward for your discussion tonight, and we have some recommendations on how to proceed with that. But I also wanted to share then that what was to be the subsequent phase 2, which is the MUR1 district, which is within that Metro Blazer area. And the efforts that we have used for phase 1 have obviously taken a little more time than we anticipated. So that has caused some delay in us forwarding phase 2. And we have had some recent development interest and property owner requests to advance the code and the guidelines for this particular phase, which would include similar to what we did for phase 1, which is the draft code and guidelines amendment, as well as public input opportunities to make sure that that's being vetted, as well as then the formal adoption process. And as outlined in your memo, we are, again, given these development interests and the opportunities for phase 2 for economic development, staff has begun the code and guidelines for this MUR1 district and intends to move forward with the review and adoption process for that, while also trying to continue to explore potential options for how to resolve our impasse for phase 1. So given that, we are making a recommendation of the following actions. One, that the MUR4 code and rezoning move forward with the opportunity for the NRI property to request exclusion from the area rezoning as part of that process. And number 2, that staff intends to shift its resources and efforts to focus on phase 2, including initiating public review adoption of phase 2 through property owner and development engagement, Planning and Zoning Commission, and the City Council approval process. So with that, I'm available to answer any questions that you might have about this and welcome your feedback on the recommendation.
Thanks, Jenny. I do want to touch base and to see if we had gotten any public comment relative to this topic. Jenny, have we received any via the clerk's office?
No, we have not.
Thank you. And Lindsay, have we via the web?
No, we have not.
Appreciate that. Council questions, discussion?
Well, I might start. You probably would have gotten conversation tonight, but I'm not so sure that maybe Llewellyn didn't know it was on tonight. But irregardless, I want to say that there has been, as Jenny said, quite a bit of discussion, a lot of discussion, probably more engagement on this one than almost any other rezoning. So I want to give credit to the planning department for the engagement, to Llewellyn Farms leadership, who's been very engaged, and say that this was an opportunity to get together for some negotiations, which, even though it didn't come to a conclusion that was agreed by all, it did bring out quite a few points, which I won't go through because I think they're all there for you to see and you can read them yourself. But the one point I will make, and I think this is very important, Llewellyn Farms has been an active neighborhood association with a leadership that's been engaged from the very beginning. And back in, I think it was 2018 in September, when this came before City Council, Llewellyn Farms leadership did come before the council and agreed to what the original DCAP guidelines for MUR4 stood for. And I think you'll find that on one of the pages, but I think it's really important that we understand that they were promised, and the reason that they said that they agreed to this, that Llewellyn Farms office subdistrict differs in character given its proximity to existing residential neighborhoods. And I'm reading this out of the DCAP that they said yes to. The appropriate land use is lower density office, which would remain its focus into the future for areas south of Rings Road. Office uses should be supported for vacant sites and any site that is proposed for redevelopment. Building height should be limited to 2 stories. And when new development occurs adjacent to a residential neighborhood, setbacks and buffers should be augmented using appropriate landscaping. So that's what they were promised. That's what they said yes to. And today they still are concerned that those promises have changed and have become more liberal than they said yes to. And if you go back and look at every one of their conversations, they're consistent in their request. They have not varied at all. And so, you know, I would say that there's only one parcel here that's undeveloped. And it appears as if that particular owner does not want to be part of the rezoning anyway. So if we do go forward, my hope is that the recommendations that have come forward in these negotiations, which I think have been fairly discussed and also probably brought some good suggestions forward, would be utilized in any rezoning of this area. And I don't think, and Jenny, you can correct me, I don't think the other partial owners are opposed to them, but they don't want to see anything denser or closer than what already exists. So, you know, we council promised them that, and I think promised them that even before the decap rezoning language was written. And because they have been so engaged and because they've been so consistent, I simply ask that you consider all of those comments they made and all of the promises made in the past to the residents.
Thanks, Jane. Yeah, they have been very active. I've walked those backyards with a number of those residents over the course of time and see the beauty of the landscape that's there, and certainly want to continue to work with them as best we can. Any other comments? Okay.
I think it's a good approach, Jenny.
All right. Is there a motion to accept the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Second.
I will have Christina got the motion, and the second was Kathy, I believe. Correct? Did I get those right? Okay. Jenny, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Keeler,
Yes.
Vice Mayor DeRosa,
Yes.
Mayor Ambrose Grooms,
Yes.
Ms. Aludo,
Yes.
Mr. Reiner,
Yes.
Ms. Fox,
Yes.
Mr. Peterson,
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, Jenny. I mean, at this time. Have a good night.
Thank you. You too.
Okay, and then Dana has an update for us for an AEP distribution hidden run circuit improvement. So welcome, General.
Thank you. Good evening, members of council. I'm not going to go into this in a lot of detail. I really just wanted to point out the memo that we put in your packet regarding the proposed upgrade of a single circuit electric distribution line by American Electric Power. This particular distribution line runs along Cosgray Road from Hayden Run Road to Shire Rings Road on the west side of Cosgray Road. Then it turns east and runs on the south side of Shire Rings Road from generally the Cosgray Shire Rings Road roundabout east over to Eiderman Road, where then it would join an existing dual circuit electric line above ground. So this is a proposal to improve or increase the level of distribution from a single circuit to a double circuit. Like I said, there is an existing double circuit power line along Shire Rings Road east of Eiderman Road. We have a pretty, I think, detailed memo in your packet. The purpose of that, again, was to lift this up and provide a little bit more visibility to it under other on your agenda, and really just be postured really to answer any questions you may have about it. We're not asking for any specific direction at this time. There has been some communication going back and forth with the residents, particularly the homeowner association leadership for Ballantrae. We have also worked with and made Washington Township administrator, and I think he in turn, Eric, made the Washington Township trustees aware of it. And AEP, I believe, has made or is reaching out to make contact with the residents in the area. So just again, lifting this up for your awareness, and between myself, Megan, and Paul would be happy to try and answer your questions.
Good, thanks. Just as a point of clarity, they were not asking permission. This was more of a notification.
That's correct. And they do not need anything from the city, I think is the other point I wanted to make. Should you be contacted or ask any questions about this particular project, they plan to do this improvement along the existing right-of-way and where the existing lines are. So they don't need anything from the city per se.
Okay. Questions for Dana? Does anyone? I will check in on public comment. Not that I think that we have any, but I certainly don't want to make that if possible. Jenny, have we received any public comment?
We have not.
Thank you. And Lindsay, have we via the web?
We have not, Mayor.
Appreciate that. Okay, that will bring us to staff comments. Stick with you, Dana.
Okay, thank you. Yes, just a couple. I just want to remind you and our residents who may be watching this evening that this week is Spring Severe Weather Awareness Week, March 21st through the 27th. As we know, this is something we take very seriously every year because we do experience the dangers of severe weather, including flooding, severe storms, tornadoes, and associated hazards such as hail, high winds, lightning strikes, and power outages. And we know that planning ahead, knowing how to communicate, and practicing safety drills are key to being able to handle fast developing spring storms and can help minimize injury and property damage. So during Severe Weather Awareness Week, as we do every year, there will be a statewide tornado drill on Wednesday, March 24th at 9:50 a.m. As part of that drill, Dublin's outdoor warning sirens will be tested. That's different than the normal noon hour test that we do on Wednesday, intentionally, just to kind of shake everyone up a little bit so they think something is up and they can at least be reminded of severe weather week. And if obviously if the weather's threatening in any way, that will be delayed or not conducted because we don't want to cause any confusion. Also during that time, we'll also conduct a test of our own Informacast internal communication system. We continue, as always, to do preparations internally as a city staff for severe weather events. And we encourage all residents to prepare for weather emergencies, know Ohio's weather hazards, keep a disaster kit in your home in case of emergencies, and sign up for the Dublin Emergency Calling System, which you can access at our city website. And that's all I have on Severe Weather Week, Awareness Week, so I hope everyone will take heed of that. The other item I have is actually two more items. One is, you may recall that Council had referred the topic of chicken coops to the Community Service Advisory Committee, and this was all sort of pre-COVID-19, late 2019, early 20. Last time we had any discussion on this matter. And staff is trying to move agendas along, or items that were to be placed on agendas, and try to bring some resolution to a few items that were kind of lingering out there from pre-COVID timeframe. This is one of those. And as a result, after reviewing that topic in the minutes and previous meetings and so forth, we're actually recommending the council refer the chicken coop issue to its Community Development Committee, which will meet as soon as tomorrow, to try to determine a way ahead of that and perhaps get a recommendation back to City Council here very soon. So what I'd really like, Mayor, is if I could obtain a motion or your approval to refer that to Community Development Committee.
Does anyone take issue if we refer this to a Community Development Committee? Okay, I'll make a motion that we refer this topic to Community Development Committee. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, everybody. Jenny, would you please call roll?
Mr. Reiner,
Yes.
Mayor Ambrose Grooms,
Yes.
Ms. Fox,
Yes.
Ms. Aludo,
Yes.
Mr. Peterson,
Yes.
Vice Mayor DeRosa,
Yes.
Mr. Keeler.
Yes.
Great. Thank you, General.
Just one last item, and I know many of you will probably mention this yourself. I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank staff for their innovativeness and their creative way of going about conducting this year's St. Patrick's Day Parade. They did a great job of preparation. I want to thank City Council for your many hours of standing and greeting everyone. And I also want to thank most of all the folks who participated in the parade. As far as the units that participated in it, it had to be pretty tiring, dancing and playing music and so forth for several hours, but it was well worth it. And most of all, thanks to all the residents who came out and enjoyed it. So thanks everyone for, I think, what felt like finally an opportunity to do a little celebrating in a community way on a little bit larger scale. So thanks to everyone for your participation in that.
Thank you, General. Okay, council committee reports. We'll start with P&Z, Jane.
Okay. Well, planning and zoning didn't have applicants this past Thursday. We did discuss garage conversion, specialty hospitals, the Tex Flex district, and one other thing that slips my mind. But most importantly, what I would tell you is that one of the efforts that we brought forward last year about increasing our educational opportunities for all of our boards and commissions, we had a goal-setting conversation. And as we go forward, I'll just give you a quick rundown on what we will be discussing and working on and bringing in experts and adding to the education of at least the Planning and Zoning Commission. From April to June, presentations related to city initiatives, comprehensive plan overview discussions, information about innovative neighborhoods, neighborhood design and placemaking, legal issues for commission members, how to utilize all of the legal means that we have to make sure that they're very professional, citing your authority, using analytics to decide some of the issues that come before us, and information regarding pending cases for planning and zoning and other city projects that may interest the commission. In other words, trying to be updated as commission members to know what city council is dealing with, what the city issues are, so that they have an awareness. In the third quarter, they'll be discussing housing trends and housing needs and residential development standards. And in the fourth quarter, from October to December, regional partners and the challenges they are facing, architectural design and material discussion and presentation, and discussion about collaborative design processes and work sessions. Not only are we going to be discussing these, but we're also going to be, as we probably will continue to do, have these on, recorded. And these conversations will be kept in an archive for future commission members to be able to utilize as part of a video educational base, so that not only will we discuss this then, but we'll build on this for other commissioners to be able to utilize this information as they're thinking about becoming commissioners, or if they do become commissioners, so that we have consistent information, consistent education, and continued discussions with a history to be able to go back to. So I hope that gives you an idea of where we're going with education on at least on the planning and zoning. The planning department intends to do the same thing with all of our boards and commissions. So I think that's a really big move on our part to enhance the education and give a lot more resources, I would say, to our citizen volunteers who take these really important positions. So that's all I have for that. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Jane. Thanks for all that body of work. It's very appreciated. Okay, admin committee, Kathy?
Yes, thank you. I had one item. If you saw in your packet, as you guys certainly are aware, the city has been evaluating our processes to ensure that diversity, equity, inclusion practices are always incorporated in our daily work. And as part of that ongoing evaluation, I'd like to propose a few revisions to the Code of Conduct form that furthers our commitment and the commitment of those that serve with us on our boards and commissions. So you'll see those revisions before you for your consideration tonight. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Kathy. So are you making a motion?
Oh, okay, yes, thank you. I will make a motion that we accept changes to our Code of Conduct.
I'll second.
Thank you, Andy. Jenny, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Ms. Aludo?
Yes.
Vice Mayor DeRosa?
Yes.
Mr. Reiner?
Yes.
Mayor Ambrose Grooms?
Yes.
Mr. Keeler?
Yes.
Ms. Fox?
Yes.
Appreciate all the work on that, Kathy. I think I saw at the bottom there it was last visited in 13, so it was probably due for a refresh. So appreciate your work on that. Okay, Community Development Committee, John?
Yes, we're going to have a meeting tomorrow at 5 p.m. And topics, if anyone's interested in tuning in, will be Crawford Hoying Bridge Park update, the staff update from the Planning Division, Jenny Roush, of course, maintenance of historically significant stone walls, a discussion on that, and urban chickens, which we're probably going to put the chickens to roost finally and wind this thing up after, what, 7 years, 9 years. So should be a lot of fun. Looking forward to seeing you all again tomorrow.
Well, if that isn't must-see TV, I don't know what is. So
Riveting,
okay.
Truly riveting.
Finance Committee, Christina.
Yes, thank you. We met on the 16th. We had the Bridge Street New Community Authority with us at that meeting and kind of giving us a rundown on how things are functioning and going with the new community authority. They're on track for G block, F block, and H block. They have no major issues that they foresee in preventing them from moving forward as planned with those. We talked a little bit about how the city could sort of better help support them. And what we settled on was basically they would give us an annual report that they will come present to council, as well as sort of 2 semi-annual reports. So Matt Stifler is working with them to determine the cadence of what that will look like. We reviewed first quarter revenues and other financials as well. So just as a heads up for us for later in the year, at least at this point, the hotel motel fund balance will likely require a general fund transfer at the end of this year. It is trending to be down about 60%, which is what we projected it to be. All other areas are pretty much right at where we projected them, or where staff projected them, I should say, or trending better. We talked about the Dublin Arts Council subsidy review and the Visit Dublin subsidy, as well as the hotel motel bed tax grant updates. If you'll recall, when we first heard the hotel motel bed tax grants, we actually held some funding back and didn't, give everybody their full amount of their request because we knew there would be some changes and things that might not be able to happen just because of the pandemic, and we weren't sure what that looked like back in November when we reviewed these. So we will have those folks back in front of us to talk through what we want to do there and to see if there were any funds that ended up going unused or will end up going unused. We'll do that in the June timeframe. We also had a permissive tax discussion just to talk about vehicle registration fees, basically, and it was very informative. It was nice to have a refresher on what that all is. At this point, we did not decide to bring any recommendations for changes forward to City Council. And that's it.
Great. Thank you, Christina. Public Services, Jane.
We have a meeting on March 29th at 4 o'clock.
Thanks. Hoda, Kathy?
Nothing this evening, thank you.
For the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission, I will say that the State of the Region celebration is coming up shortly, and I'm sure you've all seen notification on that. So the bulk of the report there. Logan, Union, Champaign County Regional Planning Commission, Andy?
Nothing to report.
Thank you. 33 Corridor, Kathy, Andy?
Nothing, thank you.
Arts Council, John? You're on mute. Still on mute.
Exciting activities coming on. So tune into that. I think you're going to find your city is really active in the arts.
Okay, Board of Education, Greg.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I do want to make a couple of comments because I don't know when I'm going to have the opportunity to comment on this, and I think it's important. It's important to me to say this out loud. I just want to take a minute and express my appreciation and thanks to Dr. Hoadley. I'm headed towards the end of my 12th year on City Council here, and I've had 2 different stints as the liaison to the Board of Education and to Dr. Hoadley's office, and Chris, as you know, as mayor, those 2 terms as mayor, I spent a lot of time interacting with Todd Hoadley. And I know the kind of quality person that he is. I know the quality leader that he is. I know the quality father that he is, and the quality of administrator that he is. From a city perspective, I think I can say without hesitation that I don't believe the relationship between the city and the schools has ever been stronger than it has been under Dr. Hoadley's watch. We have our rock stars on our side of the table, but when Dana is going to need to cut a deal with a partner, he needs somebody with the kind of resolve that Todd Hoadley had across the table to work with. I don't believe, and the general can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe our new library would be where it is if it weren't for Dr. Hoadley's leadership. I don't believe our school system would be hooked into Dublin, perhaps the greatest backbone computer infrastructure for any school system in our country without his leadership. You know, the academic performance of our kids continued to excel during his entire tenure. It surpasses just about every other school district in this state. You can compare it to just about any other school district across this country, and it will fare very well. And that's all been under Dr. Hoadley's watch. You look at the infrastructure of the school system, the new middle schools. You look at the new technology center over there on Kaufman Road, the new preschool. And if you really just need to see Dr. Hoadley's influence, just take a stop over to Emerald Campus, walk through there and see the kind of facility that came online during his watch. And you know, and Chris, you would know this as well. We were at many of these things. You couldn't go to a chamber meeting. You couldn't go to a Rotary Club meeting. You couldn't go to an HOA annual meeting. You couldn't go to the police memorial service we had. You couldn't go to any modestly attended event in Dublin without seeing Todd Hoadley there. And I remember I got up one morning and it was real early, and I drove all the way out to Marysville for a Chamber of Commerce breakfast that they were hosting. And I walked in, and wouldn't you know it, Dr. Hoadley was already sitting in the front row. He was in so many places and with such a positive message and such an upbeat, enthusiastic representation, not only of our schools, but of our community, that many times I thought there have to be like 3 of this guy. I don't know how, and him and Angie are raising their own family during this whole period of time. I could never understand how he had the energy and the enthusiasm to do everything that he did, because he was everywhere that you would expect him to be, and many places you would never even expect to see him, but he was there. And I know him well enough that if I were talking to him, he would say, you know, this was a team effort. And it's a team effort. There's a lot of people around him, but Todd Hoadley's impact on this school system and on this community, quite frankly, cannot be overstated. You know, I think the relationship with the business community, he has a business advisory committee. There are business people that I met that would say that they're going to be serving on Dr. Hoadley's business advisory committee. And you guys know that is the tip of the spear. I think the business community is paying attention. They want to know if they move their companies to Dublin and their families and their employees follow, where are their kids going to be going to school and what kind of an education are they going to be getting. And for 7 years, Todd Hoadley has stood at that gate, making sure that it was good as it could possibly be, and in many ways better than anyone could have possibly have expected. So on a personal note, you know, that when I first came over to City Council, it was 3 years before my first child would be born. And now Tatum's off as a sophomore at Miami, and Zach is wrapping up his junior year at Kaufman. And so for the last 7 years, each day we'd get up and we'd turn our kids over to the system that was run by this man. And I want to thank him personally for the education that he ensured that my kids got. And I want to thank him for being such a tireless and impassioned advocate for our community and all that is good in Dublin. And so I just wanted to pause and let him know how much I personally appreciate that, how much I appreciate that as a member of this council, how much I've appreciated watching him work and working with him, and allowing, like I said, our rock stars like Dana to reach across the table and find a willing partner to undertake some things that had never been done before, certainly not the ways that they were done, because the success there to be seen with the quality of the school system that we have. So that's all.
Well, that's a lot, Greg, and I don't know that I could have said it better myself. I would echo every word that you said, and I think probably all of council would. He will be sorely missed. And you just really appreciate the blood, sweat, and tears that he gave us for those 7 years. I don't think we could have asked for anything more what he gave us. So appreciate that. Move on to Washington Township, Jane.
No, nothing to report.
Thank you. And Dublin Bridges.
Well, they're as active as usual, but now they're back into the schools again. And I would just ask everyone to go to neighborhoodbridges.org, put your name on their email list, and you will be among many who will bridge all of the needs in the city in a very easy and heartfelt way. So they're using, I will say this, they are using the money that the city had given them through the CARES dollars that we had available to us and passed on. And many, many people are being benefited by that through Welcome Warehouse, the Dublin Food Pantry, as we heard earlier, and Dublin Bridges. 99% of all needs that are requested are answered.
Oh, we'll work to getting towards 100. Veterans Committee, John.
We're working towards a bunch of interesting projects, one of which is Veterans Talking Tombstones, where you can go out and actually possibly hear the veteran, where you're walking through the cemetery, tell his story, which is going to be very, very enlightening. And I think for a lot of people that are interested in history and what made this country great. And the Purple Heart Commission is coming around, and you'll probably, Mayor, be giving the proclamation for that. So we're slowly working our way to that. I drove all the way down into South Carolina through about 3 or 4 states, and I noticed a lot of them had the tag that we are a Purple Heart community. So I'm looking forward to see us achieve that same kind of glory for our people that have sacrificed, their very beings and were wounded in war. So hopefully all this will be coming to fruition by midsummer. Thank you.
Great. That talking tombstone sounds both informative, exhilarating, and frightening all at the same time. So can't wait to see how that translates. Okay, that brings us to round screen. On my top center is Andy.
Thanks, Mayor Grooms. First, I'd like to echo Greg's comments. Dr. Hoadley, you'll be sadly missed. Sadly, very sadly. But on a positive note, Allison and your team, you did an excellent job rallying the residents of Dublin and I suspect Hilliard and Worthington and Columbus. I was astounded by the turnout. I guess I left before the party was over. I was frankly very cold, and my son was too. But Allison and team, you did a wonderful job, very creative. Let's hope that the 4th of July parade, we don't have to duplicate that effort. Thank you.
Thanks, Christina.
Thanks. Yeah, Chris, you and I got to serve as the school board liaison together when we first got on council, and I think Todd Hoadley is top notch, and I will, miss having him at the helm, but I thank him for all of the incredible work that he's done. I echo Andy's words about the St. Patrick's Day parade. I had lots of folks reaching out to me afterwards, telling me how awesome it was that they got to participate and that we were there as well. It was kind of funny. I was standing up there and this car goes by and it's one of my staff members from work. And we onboarded her back in April. That was the first time I'd actually ever seen her in person. Prior to that day, I'd only ever seen her like from here on up on a screen. So let that sink in. It was wild, but it was fun. And I thank, all of you guys for being there too. Oh, it was a good time. A little sore on the feet, but it was worth it. That's it. Thanks.
John?
Dittos on Greg's comment about Dr. Hoadley. I think thinking back when we flew down to North Carolina to study the STEM school idea, how well all that was executed, the building, moving us in, and that school was just literally fantastic. I mean, we sat through classes there. It's great that he brought that back and implemented that for our children. And as Greg also said, there's probably never been anybody who's appeared almost magically at so many things, not school related, just city related things, and was always there for all of us. And I just don't know how he did it. That dedication, that love, and that passion he had for our students will be sorely missed. He was really a champ. And again, back to the festivities we had at St. Patrick's Day. It was a really interesting thing. It ran an hour and a half over, and I think it entertained probably most of Central Ohio. At least you had that feeling as you stood there watching cars go by endlessly. And I think it was a great relief for our citizens and for people to get out and really do something. And I think that's what happened. It was a beautiful day. It was cold, but I think Dublin went way overboard to entertain people who have been pent up from COVID, and the staff's got to be proud, and the city should be proud of what they did. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Jane?
Yeah, Greg, I just so appreciate you taking the time to say what you did about Dr. Hoadley, because I think people come through this city and into this city and they leave a mark, like you said. And so often they don't hear from us just how important that mark is and what that means to the people here. I have 7 grandchildren that are in the school system, and I've watched them from the youngest to the oldest learn at the helm of his work. He's collaborative. He's open to innovative ways of learning. He's willing to be available to hear other people's thoughts. And the stresses of this past year's pandemic on the school systems is unimaginable. I can't imagine any superintendent getting through that the way he has. I hope he hears what we've said, and I hope that many people who might be listening tonight take the time to write a note or a letter or drop an email to him and tell him that, because there are no perfect people in this world, that's for sure. But there are people that give their heart and soul, and he's one of them. So I just feel that you have said it so very much what we all think. So I appreciate that, and I hope Dr. Hoadley's hearing what we're all saying. As for the St. Patrick's Day reverse parade, what fun that was. I think the people should know that there were decorated dogs, there were decorated kids. They were the parade with their heads sticking out the little moon roofs. And I got such a kick out of the lady who threw candy at us. So it was a great time. Allison and the team and everybody who was there at the parade, you lifted the heart of the city. And I think we couldn't celebrate the way we always do, but when the lights of the bridge turned green, I think that was like a little green heartbeat. So it was a great day, and I feel so bad for the people who sat in line for 2 hours. I'm sure there were over 3,000 cars, but it was a great day. So thanks, group, for staff for all of that.
Thanks, Jane. Greg?
Seeing as how I far exceeded my self-imposed limit of words for a given meeting, I will add nothing more. Thank you. Oh, I will say this: go get your shots. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Kathy?
Thank you, Greg. Yeah, I got my shot last week, and that was a happy day too. There was a parade, and there was, when I went to get my shot at Ohio Health, and they've just done such a great job. There was music playing and people dancing. Who knew there'd be that much excitement? So it was wonderful. So I thank all those folks, and yes, I encourage. I will not to cover the same ground as everybody, but I will echo that, great communities are defined by a couple things: great schools and great libraries, and the foundation of learning and those who lead that. And so we are so incredibly blessed to have that, and appreciate all the leaders that do that work every day, because that's what defines a fantastic community. That, of course, and great parades. So it was a wonderful experience, and I thank you. I have to add one other thing is our tradition we always wish happy birthdays. And since we met last, our mayor had a birthday, and it happened to be on the same day as the parade. So there does seem to be some confusion. Was it a birthday parade?
Wait a minute. You mean that parade wasn't for my birthday? Come on.
It was. It totally was.
We're telling her the truth right now. So both were great fun. So hope it was a fun birthday. What a great way to share it. So thanks, everybody.
It couldn't be more fun than to be able to watch 3,000 cars full of your neighbors who were having a wonderful time pass by. So nothing says 50 like a parade. So thank you all for that, and thank you for the card. Very kind words. Certainly do appreciate that. I want to highlight a couple things. We had our last design meeting on March 9th. We have another one tomorrow. Wanted to let you know that the design work along the for the new council chambers is coming along swimmingly. In particular, thanks to Jane Fox. I did have the opportunity to testify before the Ways and Means Committee on the 10th relative to income tax payment remittance. And I wish that I had a resolve to deliver to you yet, but that is something that is still under much discussion and debate. So I will continue to update as there is any definitive things to report on. Also want to thank the collective Dublin High Schools for the opportunity to be before them on Career Day on the 10th. I did want to let you all know that we received notice from Consul General Nakagawa from Japan in Detroit. Dana and I received him on the 15th and had a lovely conversation with him. You'll see a memo coming shortly for the messages that he had to deliver to us. I would like to let you know that the last WARPC/COMMA meeting has taken place relative to COVID-19, and we will be discontinuing that particular meeting from this point forward. So those bodies will meet independently. So that was good news. I was very glad to see something come to an end relative to COVID, so we'll take it. I do want to mention that on the 18th, there was an Ohio Mayor Alliance meeting. The topic of that conversation was how communities are going to spend their America Rescue Plan dollars. And I think that that's a conversation that we need to get together for in terms of council. We have been notified that between $8 and $9 million will be coming our way that will be spent prior to the year end 2024. So I look forward to having that conversation with all of you and put our collective heads together. There were mayors. The mayor of Toledo was on the call, and they were in receipt of $188 million. So they're really all over the board, and they're just a community of 300,000. So they're roughly 6 times our size, but their number was far more than 6 times ours. So I think that there is some strategy in thinking through what we want to do. So I will look forward to get that conversation on a meeting for us before too long. I did have the opportunity to thank the food pantry volunteers today and deliver that proclamation. And then this afternoon had the opportunity to deliver Meals on Wheels as part of the appreciation for the work that Life Care Alliance is doing on our community and visit the families that were in receipt of those meals. So I just wanted to bring you all up to date on those activities. I would echo all of your comments relative to Dr. Hoadley. But I think for me, most importantly, I would like to add the title of friend. He was all of those things in leadership and vision in those, but he certainly, I do count him as a friend as well. I appreciate his friendship. I've been in communication with him a bit and look forward to continuing that conversation and reaching out and telling him that, that we're really proud of him and that we hope that he always considers Dublin home. So I will continue to deliver that message on all of our behalf. I was invited to participate in the interview for his successor this coming Thursday night. So I will be bringing back whatever contents of that meeting are to this body. So we're all on the same page of where that is headed. And with that, I think I have nothing further for Roundtable other than to thank you all for your time this evening and for putting up with me trying to run these virtual meetings. And I can't wait till they're over, and I'm hoping that it's soon. Our new council chambers is said to be complete sometime in the second week of June, and I'm hoping that when we have that larger space that we are able to gather together in person, and you have to listen a lot less to my voice and I get to listen a lot more to yours, and we get a chance to be together. So we'll work towards that end, but until then, have a wonderful evening and we will stand adjourned.